Well, good afternoon and welcome to this Monday, May 3rd edition of the Referees Corner here on IslandStats.com. I'm your host, Earl Basin, and joining me is a plethora of experience in the sport of football and officiating. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and give me a small resume of themselves of what they've been through. And we'll start with Mark.
Thank you. My name is Mark Kayan. I'm currently one of the managers of refereeing for CONCACAF and in charge of the VAR project. Just briefly, I was an assistant referee in Major League Soccer for a few years, and I'm here to enjoy with my colleagues. So thank you for having me on today.
Hello, S.C. Baharmas, Director of Referees for Colorado Soccer, a FIFA instructor. As a referee, I refereed in the 96 Olympics in the Atlanta, 98 World Cup in France, and have been an instructor in almost every tournament of FIFA ever since, finishing with 2019 Women's World Cup in France.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Geiger. I'm the Director of Senior Match Officials at the Professional Referee Organization, overseeing the MLS referees. I'm a former MLS referee for 15 years, and I'm a former FIFA referee for U.S. Soccer. I participated in the 2014 World Cup in Brazil and the 2018 World Cup in Russia, and now I'm following in Essie's shoes, dabbling a little bit on the instructor side.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kalisha Antoine, FIFA referee fitness instructor and also CONCACAF referee fitness instructor. I've been instructed. I've been not refereeing only locally, but I've been to the 2016 Under 17 World Cup in Jordan, 2018 Under 20 in France, and 2019 Senior Women's World Cup in France as well. And it's good to be here with my colleagues as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anthony Francis. I am the locally based fitness instructor. I am pleased to be amongst all of my esteemed colleagues.
Well, first with you, Mark. Obviously, the challenge of officiating, having come from a background of officiating, how is it getting that message across to the current group of officials to ensure that they understand what the rule is that they play, whether it be referee, assistant referee, and or a fourth official?
Thanks for the question. You know, it's a wonderful experience and opportunity to be involved with people that are on this show with us right now. And these are the leaders of the pack. They're the ones that will teach us and guide us and help to mentor us and give us the tools that we need to be successful. You know, it basically works itself out, whether you're going to be an assistant referee or a referee. It's just all your experience will tell you what you're going to be when you grow up in this career.
And Essie, for you, such a wealth of experience. What got you started in officiating?
Completely by accident. I was a player and I broke my tibia and fibia during a game. And my professor at the university said, you know, the game, come and help us out while you're recovering from your injury. And that's how it got started. So I started refereeing the youth games, you know, basically under 10s, under 12s. And, you know, they're just hobbling around the field, you know, recovering from my injury. And as you know, this game, once you start doing it, I mean, the bug bites you and the love affair with the refereeing continues. And because I was a former player and former coach, very quickly they moved up the referee ladders, and I have stayed with it. This was some 40 some odd years ago, and it's still involved to this day with the refereeing.
We are joined by Javier. Javier, welcome. If you can you just give us a brief synopsis of what it is your role is at this level?
Hi, how are you? How are you guys? I am the RDO for the Caribbean English-speaking countries. I am in charge of the development for the referees in the Caribbean. So this is my role right now.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. And I've been told, Dr. Geiger, how has the process been for you transitioning from referee to instructor?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. For myself, I had some time to think about when I was going to leave the field. I think when I was in Russia at the World Cup in 2018, I kind of started thinking about what my future was going to hold. And I think I started formulating in my head at that point that this is probably where I want to leave the game, the time of my life that I wanted to transition to the other side and start helping other referees. It was a good time for me because we had an opening within pro, and that was a job that I would always be interested in. But I also have a teacher background. I was a mathematics teacher at a high school for 17 years. So for me, going into an instructor role was very natural, and being in front of the referees and trying to help them and give them a little bit of my experience and tidbits on how to make themselves better on the field was something that I always wanted to do. It was a natural fit for me, and I've been enjoying it ever since.
Kalisha, let me ask, because you did indicate that not as a player, not as a referee, but an instructor. How have you been accepted as a female? Because the sport has been predominantly male over the years. The women have been given the green light of late to actually be on center stage. But how has it been for you as a female and as a fitness instructor?
Well, for me, there is no difference. I'm around great people. I work with these guys who are presently on the call, and they've never treated me, I'm male and you're female, or anything of that sort. It's just always been equal. We work together. Even Alan, who's really a mentor to me, he has never even treated me like, okay, you're female, you can't do this or anything. He always communicates with me. We always communicate together, and we put plans together so that we come to one goal, one objective, fitness-wise, for all the referees. So there's no gender bias or anything here. It's just that we work together. So for me, it has never been a case where, oh, I'm female, I'm scared. No, they've just always been welcoming, and that's how it's always been in CONCACAF and in FIFA as well.
Now, Mr. Francis, for you, this group that you have in Bermuda haven't really stopped training other than when we were on lockdown and really couldn't do anything. But just seeing the effort in which they're putting in, how inspiring is it for you to continue on the vein in which you have thus far?
Oh, for a fact that I'm fully inspired with our group of referees, our up-and-comers. Over the last 2 years, we've trained over 150 under-16 youth referees. We're currently prepping so that I can send a set of referees to these illustrious instructors so that they can get on, the international list. But I hang out with these folk, everybody on this call. I hang out with them, and they are very, very inspiring. Kalisha and I met about 7 years ago, and she's always been top quality for me. And I can call her at any time and get information from her. I met Mark last year in Guatemala, but I know that I can simply pick up the phone, send an email. Essie has been around in courses forever. So these are the people that inspire me internationally. But I have to say that our referees right now are inspiring me to continue because, as you know, I'm getting to the end of my refereeing career. And like Mark, this is a great time to transition into instructing. So I think I still have a little more to offer. And I think it will be as an instructor and an assessor. So I'm thoroughly excited about where we're going.
Well, the premier said no mixing of households, but you saying you're coming to the end of your refereeing career, so a lot of people now going to throw parties in Bermuda. Not me. I'm going to be saying
not you, but yes.
But Javier, having the responsibility and the role of overseeing the CONCACAF region, it must be a tall order because everyone's in different locations, although you're able to get in touch with them and so forth. How difficult is it for you to do your job and making sure that you have the quality when you call upon them?
Yeah, and for now, regarding the COVID-19 situation, is very difficult to have like a face-to-face course, no. So I would like to visit the countries with the technical instructors and the fitness instructors, just to see you, just to see the referees, just to see how they are working on the field. So we need to train on the fields. But for now, FIFA is working with different platforms, online platforms, that are offering new tools to instruct. But it's not easy. It's not easy, but we can adapt. So I am begging that maybe this situation could finish at the end, maybe at the end of this year, and maybe the next year we can start visiting the countries, touch the referees, look at the referees, and train with them. This is the most important thing.
Now, Kalisha, you've been to Bermuda on several occasions. Give me your first impression when you first came to Bermuda and after the first week, what you thought about the officials on island.
I don't remember clearly when I first visited Bermuda, but I know the same as now, there's always been a set of young persons who have always been interested. I believe that was the first time, I think it was 2017. I met Tashan in 2016 at a U15 tournament, and he was really excited because I think he got onto the list on 2017, and Antoine was also at the tournament. So at that point in time when I came, you saw the excitement in refereeing at that point in time in Bermuda. And I know Cranston had just taken over refereeing there, heading referees and so on there. And so obviously his aim now became grassroots coming up. And so working with young people as I do home as well as a teacher, as a lecturer, it was good. It was excited to see that there are persons who were willing to learn. They wanted to know about fitness. They wanted to know about the technical aspect, but staying in my area, they were enjoying all the sessions because they were interested. And so from there, you kept seeing a set of group of young men, their Maris and so on, coming up and still going hard to this point, as Anthony said also.
Mark, can you explain what it's like when you're watching a team of officials and just seeing how they're working together from your standpoint? What does that look like? Because I can look at it and I would just say, well, he's watching over there and he's watching over here. But what does that look like for you as an instructor?
Great question, because it's almost like a family being together, and you see some nonverbal communication, and that people are communicating in ways that it doesn't necessarily require you to say something, and just the way they look at each other, the way that they walk together, the way that they the assistant referee indicates for a foul and the referee immediately blows the whistle, and what does it look like? It's magical, and to see these things and to see the congruency and the way that people work together, it's incredible. And I got to just go a second off topic and just mention that Cranston in Bermuda has done wonderful things, and he's always pushing the bar, always pushing the envelope to do what he can for the development of the Bermuda officials, and he gets a lot of credit for what he's doing there. And congratulations to the Bermuda referees. On one other note, as Javier was mentioning, that they do a lot of online refereeing classroom sessions with FIFA and their development. And I was fortunate to sit in the Bermuda sessions, and you have a lot of up-and-coming instructors, a lot of up-and-coming referees that are knowledgeable. They know the laws of the game. They're working regularly. They're getting this experience. So, all of it comes together, and it's just a wonderful thing and very enjoyable, because we want to develop and grow referees to be the best that they can be. So congratulations to Bermuda.
Essie, when you start, actually, let me just bring in Mr. Miko. Good day, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm fine, thanks.
Good to see you.
And you?
Okay. can you just give us your rule at the CONCACAF or FIFA level, please, so we understand when we ask you questions, what basis we're asking.
Okay, I'm the referee manager in charge of the Caribbean.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. Essie, let me ask you, when you transitioned from the player, you had time because obviously you had the injury, but becoming an official, how did it change your mindset in the game and looking at the game itself?
It makes you a three-dimensional player, coach, referee. So now when I'm looking at the game, I'm analyzing the game from all three sides. And I think it gives everybody that added benefit, added advantage. So a referee who has played and coached can empathize with the coach, can understand when a player gets hit, on the Achilles tendon, and because they have been hit before, so they have that feeling, and vice versa. A player who also takes a refereeing course and becomes a referee has a better understanding of, how to time a run. So, they beat the offside trap. They know exactly what an offside trap entails. They know where the offside line is. Yesterday, I was actually on the field with a bunch of younger players, and a coach who was coaching the under 14s didn't know that if you are behind the ball or in line with the ball, you cannot be offside. She had never ever heard that before. So at the halftime, I had to put this little seminar on the side for the coaches to tell them that actually you have to be ahead of the ball. If you're in line with the ball or you're behind the ball, you cannot be offside. So to begin with, and it's that type of knowledge that you get, and you become more of a more complete of a coach, a more complete of a player, and more complete of a referee. When you can see it from every angle, and now when I'm watching a play, at the same time that I'm looking at the referee's position and their decision making and their angle of view and all of that, I'm also looking at the player whether they are doing the right things or not, whether the coach has the right formation, whether they're doing the right substitution at the correct time, all of that. So it's a complete picture for me.
And Dr. Geiger, you. You yourself have been officiating for a number of years, but looking at how the U.S. used to play, when they used to have the NASL, they used to have where they had to have a winner kind of thing. Coming up, I guess you would have been young at that time, but now that they've moved to the trend, the generalization of football, soccer. How much did that change the concept in the States and the officiating, because it was a little different?
Yeah, we've seen a big transition in the sport. The U.S. is a weird culture in that it's so sport oriented, and we have so many different sports, whereas in many other countries around the world, you have a national sport, which tends to be football. And so they're used to the traditions, or used to the way that it's traditionally played. But in the US, it's a little bit different from that standpoint. And they like to experiment with different things to just make it more entertaining or more exciting for the fans. And so for the referees, they grew up with that transition. Every single time that the game has changed, or the outlook of football has changed within the US, it has forced the referees to develop as well. I think recently in Major League Soccer and the second and third divisions in NWSL, you're seeing that more traditional approach to the game from the league standpoint. And what that's doing is it's forcing the referees to understand the game and see the game from a traditional standpoint as well, something that's consistent around the world. And we're seeing really high success with the referees from the U.S. on the world stage. Going back, Carrie Seitz, Nancy Lay, Carrie Seitz, Sandy Hunt. We're all on the female side, really trailblazers for the females that we have right now that are refereeing in NWSL, USL Championship, as well as MLS. We have referees and assistant referees, fourth officials, VARs on the female side, all participating at the highest level in the U.S. On the men's side, you look at what Essie had done, and after him, Brian Hall, these are guys that really set the stage and made a name for U.S. referees on the FIFA level. So when I came in 2014, there was already this established idea that American referees can referee at this level. So my job was to push the boundaries even a little bit more and to show that we are competent and we're able to handle games at that level. So the person that goes after me now, whether it's Jair or it's Ismail Elfath, hopefully it's a little bit easier for them to get further than I had gone in my own career. So we continue to push the boundaries. I think that there's more and more respect, that we're getting as referees, because the leagues are taking that traditional approach now as something that's consistent with the way that the game is played all around the world.
Mr. Miko, can you give us your journey through the sport?
Whoa, what a journey. Good afternoon, colleagues. Essie, Grandmaster Essie, Mark, others, Javier, Kelisha, Anthony. Yeah, well, I pretty much used to play soccer, and I remember playing for a Division II team, and I felt cheated by the referee. And at the end of the game, or maybe during the game, I had a few words. And at the end of the game, I think an organizer came to me and said, "Hey, man, you talk too much. There's a referee seminar going on next week. Why don't you join up?" And I said to him, "I will surely join." And that's how I started. I can tell you that the first class I went to, I met up with the referees who were officiated in my game. And to tell you the truth, I found out then that they were not official match officials at the time, but they were also trying to, get themselves organized as official referees. Had I known then, maybe it would have been a different situation at the field. However, from then on, I started officiating at the lower leagues in Jamaica. Moved pretty quickly through the ranks, moved up to the National Premier League status. And maybe after 5 or 6 years, I became a FIFA assistant referee. I did a handful of World Cup qualifying games, and in addition to other competitions around CONCACAF. And then from then, in 2005, even when I still had a couple of years on the list, I decided to call it a day. And at that point in time, I transitioned from a referee to an administrator, of refereeing activities with the Jamaica Football Federation. After that, a couple of years after that, I received a telephone call from the Deputy General Secretary of CONCACAF, asking me if I was interested in helping referees in the Caribbean from the CONCACAF level, right? And he told me to apply, and I did, and this is where I'm at today, in a short.
Well, it has been a journey for you. Now, Javier, similar to what Mr. Miko just said, how did you really get your start in the sport? Because to get to where you are, obviously, it's a journey, and like Mr. Miko said, Essie is the I guess the leader of the charge.
Yes, maybe I arrived to the refereeing family maybe by an accident, because I am from Colombia. I moved to Puerto Rico do my master's, in marketing. So when I was there, I was playing because I used to be a goalkeeper in Colombia, and then I started playing for the college, for the university where I was studying in Puerto Rico. So then I started like hanging out with some referees, and they invite me to join one of the meetings that they had on Mondays, and I started like a refereeing under 8, under 10. So some kids, and I like it because in that moment when you are a student, you don't have a good budget, right? So I need some money, some extra money. So I start like having this type of games, and then I continue my career in refereeing there, getting different appointments for the second division in Puerto Rico. Then I moved. I went to Miami and for Lauderdale to have some games for the USL games, and then I had the opportunity to become a FIFA referee in 2007. So I started my career from 2007 until 2017, when I moved to Miami because the Maria hurricane, that it was tough in Puerto Rico. So I cut in that moment, and now I start like the other part, like as an instructor, an assessor, and now as a development officer here.
Okay, all right, great stuff. Now, Kalisha, let me ask you: does the training change whether it's one person or 15 people doing a session?
No, no, it does not. Well, at least me, no. I'm talking locally. Locally, right now, if I have one person shows up for training, the training continues. Because if I have one student shows up for class, the class continues. Obviously, when you're on tournaments and so on, we have to change the training day depending on match day -1, match day +1, and these different things, because on a -1 the day before the game, the training has to be different than 2-3 days before the game. So in that sense, it changes. But if locally home one person comes, I'm training. At tournaments, we have to change depending on the days, the schedule of the officials, whether it's match day -1, if it's match day, if it's +1, and all these different activities and objectives we have to take into consideration and so on before we plan training sessions.
Okay. Now I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to ask you to give me a standout moment whilst you were officiating, something that you would never, ever forget. And I'm going to save you for last, Mr. Francis, because I know a lot of people, you probably got a long laundry list. But Essie, let's start with you.
Well, one moment can define your career. And for me, that one moment is 1998 World Cup, last minute of the match between Brazil and France, where I call a penalty in a tie game 1-1. And Norway goes on to win the match. And the entire world for 36 hours talks about what a terrible penalty. And I was a bot and, there was never a penalty and this and that. And luckily for me, the Swedish television camera behind the goal captured the entire incident. And now even FIFA TV has a 5-minute blurb on it on YouTube. So anybody who wants to watch it, just put my last name and on YouTube, and you see this 5 minute of history, which is actually a great thing for all referees, because it showed that a referee in good position can be better than 16 television cameras. A good referee in a great position doesn't need VAR, and sometimes human can be better than machines. So that it's incredible. All the games I have ever done, and there are quite a few. You come up to one moment, and that would have decided whether I would continue or not continue my career as a referee or a referee instructor. And just one thing to add, Mark Geiger talked about, his 2014 World Cup, but he's too humble. He's showing a lot of humility because he doesn't say it, that in 2011, under 20 World Cup in Colombia, he refereed the final match. Okay, and when you look at the caliber of the referees who were there, Mark Clattenburg, who has done Champions League final and everybody knows from England, Cüneyt Çakır from Turkey, who has done all these Champions League matches. Wilson Seneme from Brazil, who's now the head of CONMEBOL referees. They were all in that same tournament with him. And for him to be given the championship match shows the trust that FIFA has in his talent and what he could have done. So even before 2014 World Cup or 2018 World Cup in Russia, where actually if you watch all the FIFA material from 2018 World Cup, Mark Geiger is like the highlight reel, right? And for all the good reasons, not for all the bad reasons, for all the good reasons, okay? To call a penalty against a Colombian player who's grabbing the English player from behind and to get to, everything correctly. So, this is part of his humility, and that's what makes great referees. Who know what they're doing. They go out there, do the job, and I went a little bit on a tangent. So you asked me about one moment, and I think I gave you a little bit more.
That's fine. Well, Dr. Geiger has put you on the spot, so you're up next, brother.
Yeah, no, it's you look back at a career and there's so many moments that just fill you with joy and with and kind of the passion that you feel inside. But just like any coach, any player, you always have this dream of getting to that World Cup. And for me, I remember the moments during the games, but I think the thing that I'll hold on to the most was just standing in the tunnel before my very first match in the 2014 World Cup. And the teams are behind you, the anthem starts playing and you get so focused in those tournaments on the tournament and on the games. And sometimes you forget to enjoy, you forget to look around and say, you know what, I'm in Brazil. I'm at the World Cup. As you work so hard to get to that level, it's a dream that's finally coming to fruition. So for me, I stood in the tunnel and I said, I'm here. I've made it. Now let's get this done. And I looked out at the crowd from the tunnel where we were. The anthem started playing. I take one step and this whole wave of emotion came over my body. And the only way that my body reacted was to laugh, and then I went out with this smile on my face. But that's the moment that I'm always going to remember, that feeling that of being there in the tunnel with the teams, representing the US, representing CONCACAF, with Greece and with Colombia behind me representing their nations. There's nothing to me is going to ever be able to describe the feeling that I had at that moment. And that's something that I'm always going to remember.
Definitely. Well, Mark, what was your moment?
Oh, wow. This is really easy for me because in 2014, when Mark Geiger and his team went to the World Cup, it left an opportunity for some of us other officials in the United States to be selected for other competitions and other events. And I got to go to India for the Indian Super League, the inaugural opening day match with Eric Boria and Chris Penso from the United States. And we were able to referee in front of 120,000 people in Eden Garden in the Indian Super League. And to me, that was just a monumental experience for me. Never having an international badge, that to me was my moment, my time to really appreciate and enjoy all the hard work that you have to put in. And, you just have to keep working hard and give it your all and do the best that you can. And eventually you get recognized. And so that was the defining moment of my career.
Javier, what was yours?
Yeah, different games, but I had a special moment when I was like a referee in the United States and in the Caribbean as well. I was planning. I was like thinking, when is the next game maybe that I can have the opportunity to ref South American teams, for example, like Argentina, Brazil, because in that moment I was just refereeing teams from my region, right? So in that moment I had an opportunity to officiate a game between Argentina and Ecuador. It was a preparation for the Brazil World Cup. So for me, it was amazing. So I had my opportunity to officiate this type of games.
Okay. And Mr. Miko, what was that moment like for you?
It's really hard to speak after and Mark Geiger. However, I'm going to put a little bit of a different spin on things. Yeah. So a number of years ago, I was involved in an international friendly, right? Between, yeah, I don't want to call the name of the teams, but I had to make a decision in that game, an offside decision. I was totally correct by my standards, and I was chastised left, right, and center by all and sundry. After the game, someone came to me and said, were you the official over on that side of the field? And I said, yes, I was. And he said, oh my God, it's offside then. And right. So when everybody else had daggers and guns drawn at me, there was one person who came out and said, well, once you said offside, that's offside. Yeah. To look back at all of that, all the threats that were made, and to see that no, I am in a trying to enhance refereeing development in the Caribbean. Yes, spoke to really to my the belief in being fair, my belief in being transparent, so that's my moment.
Okay, all right. And obviously, Kalisha, you're going to have moments where you're training people. So what was that moment?
Well, let me go back a bit also. I was a national goalkeeper of Antigua, so I played. Then after leaving high school, I transitioned into refereeing here in Antigua. So I would have had local moments, but I firmly believe that people are where they ought to be. It wasn't although I knew I wanted to be this international goalkeeper or a big FIFA referee, I'm not there because that was not my destiny. My destiny was to be a FIFA instructor, fitness instructor. So even in college here in Antigua, when I was studying electrical engineering, when I finished my 2 years, I changed and went on to university to study physical education and sport. Many persons thought I was crazy, but for me, I'm thinking something big is coming for me. I don't know what it is, but there's something big in the pipeline. And as Anthony mentioned, a few years, like 7, 8 years ago, when we met up at the for 2 or 3 course, I only ended up at the course because I was still refereeing here after coming back from university. But they wanted to send 3 instructors to the course, and I think FIFA stipulated at the time, well, you need to send a female as well. And that's the only how I ended up at the course, actually. And I think I was one of 2 females at that course, for 2 or 3 courses that was hosted here in Antigua, as he said, where I met him. And at the end of the course, I was the top of the class as well. And then that's where I met Alan as well, who for years and years, pushed me to continue, do some local work, home and so on. But I think that was my moment there. But my moment internationally was when I had the opportunity to go to Conmebol, Paraguay in 2017 with Carrie Sites, to do a course there with their women's elite referees there. And for me, it was like, I left Cuba with Spanish and I said, I knew I was destined. That's why I went there, because now I'm a fitness instructor in CONCACAF where I can use Spanish and English. And now I had the opportunity to go to Conmebol with Carrie Sites to do a course there with her in Spanish. She said to me, you have to speak Spanish. That's the only how we're going to get these ladies to trust in us. And at the end of the course, everybody was excited and happy, they were on board. And so that was something great for me, apart from the fact that I'm a drummer as well. So when we went out, I had the drums playing and everybody was surprised. But yes, but that was a defining moment as well, being able to work with Carrie Sites, because as Mark Geiger would have mentioned, she paved the way for many female referees within the United States, but I think it's within CONCACAF. And now she's a manager and she's an instructor. She's a great person to work with, and it was good working with her as well.
Okay, all right. Inspired to learn a different language to progress. How's that,
Yeah.
Mr. Francis? What would that moment be like for you?
Unlike all of my esteemed colleagues, I never got an international badge. But you've been around long enough to know that locally, I've had moments that are simply unforgettable, both good and bad. But I have to say that the defining moment in my career in football was when we got Tashawn on the list. That set us up for greatness. And most people won't know how hard he worked and how we've grown from that particular point. So when we sit around as the referee committee and we start looking at well, what are we going to do next? I made a promise to the chair that I would retire when we put a team on the list. And I think we're literally an under 15 tournament away from putting a full team on the list. So when I look back and I see all of the work that we've done, starting with Mr. Grimes, Sir Gregory, and to where we are now, that is the defining moment when we got the call that Tashawn made it. We now have a set of referees that are ready to go. We're looking forward to sending them to Kalisha and Mark and Essie so that they can see them, so that they can confirm that the work that we're doing in Bermuda is the quality work that they expect us to do. Mark is one of my instructors. Kalisha is one of my instructors. Essie is one of my instructors. I sit in the room with all of the CONCACAF instructors listening to these guys just deliver the information, and I have to bring it back. So what we want now is we just want that confirmed, that the work that CONCACAF and FIFA are doing with us is actually going in. So that's where I am.
Actually, let me ask: when you're watching someone officiate, how do you determine whether or not they are confident in what they're doing and they're in the right space?
For me, I look at their body language. I look at how calm they are. I look at their football understanding, whether they can see how the play is going to develop. Making decision with calm and confidence. Whether they're feeling correct in their own skin. They don't need to be being somebody who they are not. Their interaction with the players is natural. They're there to serve the game and serve the players, and not put their ego above and beyond everything else. They're out there to make sure that the game goes beautiful. And if the players want to play according to the laws of the game, they allow them to play. And if a player is trying to sabotage the game, they come out there and either deal with it with either a conversation, a body language, an eye contact, or a card, whatever needs to be done that fits the moment. So a referee that at the end of the game, I can sit on my seat very comfortably and not on the edge of my seat because I'm constantly worried that someone's going to get hurt or someone's going to end up in the hospital. When I can sit back and watch really poetry in motion that our game is supposed to be all about, rather than something that is more resembling of a WWF or martial arts type of thing, and that's not what we're supposed to be refereeing. There is a different sports for that. So a referee that has control of the game, reads the game, has good communication, is sure in their own abilities and talent, and they can make a mistake with the decision here and there, but as long as I see that the potential and the promise is there, then we make sure that the referee continues to go forward.
Mr. Miko, you've been to Bermuda for a course. Take us through what you think of the progress that Bermuda has made over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, Earl, I've been to Bermuda maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I must tell you that Bermuda has grown tremendously. I think Bermuda has benefited from the energy, exuded by Cranston Williams. I know he doesn't want me to be calling upon his name, but I have to put, I have to give praise where praise is due. And, I think his energy, his enthusiasm. Princeton asks a lot of questions. He tries to find out, how to move from point A to point B, how to get his guys motivated, that sort of a thing. And, I think it has paid off in a very big way, for Bermuda. And, my hope is that Bermuda Football Association, follows through. I know they are supporting him right now. I know there have been, obstacles along the way, but because of his enthusiasm, because of his never say die attitude, because he never takes no from whoever the president or general secretary is, he persists. And, as I said before, Bermuda has gained tremendously over the years, and that has culminated in Tashawn Simons being elevated to the list. And right now, I think we have 2 or 3 other persons who, from last year, I think from 2019 to be exact, they want us to look at to determine whether or not these guys are competent enough to be on the list. So yes, they have made a lot of strides over the last few years. Congratulations to them.
Now, Javier, I met you last year, or I'm sorry, 2019, when you were in Bermuda. What was your impression of Bermuda referees?
Yeah, following that day words, I'm totally agree that Cranston is doing a great job. For me, as in a simple word, it's like a development, and for young people, because Cranston is always recruiting new talents, and Essie can say that in the last course that we had on online courses last year, we had like 4 sessions with young people, all people doing great questions, all people were very motivated. So if I can find a word for Bermuda, is the talent, the young people that are like looking for opportunities, and they love the game. So this is that I saw.
Oh, okay. Mark, for you, if you see an official having a rough day, a rough game, or so, because not every game not everybody is going to be perfect every day. And what's some advice you offer to someone who probably didn't have the game they would have wanted to have?
Wow, yeah. My education is in recreational therapy. I was a recreational therapist for 10 years. So this is a perfect question. The reason why it's so important, the psychology of refereeing is so important, but, positive reinforcement has always been the way that I like to approach these types of situations. I like to highlight the best practices that the referees experience during their matches. And then we can talk about maybe, if there was an error in law, or if there was something, mechanic that they could have done differently, or maybe they could have managed this situation in a different way. We really want to just promote best practices and positive reinforcement. And, along the way, referees realize and recognize that you're on their team and that you want to help them and encourage them. And it's that humility that both sides show, because our relationships have to be built on trust, and we can't tell people false information, or else we won't trust them and they won't trust us. So, we need to be honest and open and fair with our match officials, and really help just hold their hand if they need it, or be a shoulder to lean on or cry on if they need as well, or just be that motivating factor to let them know that there's always another game, and keep the positive light.
Yeah. Dr. Geiger, when did this reality hit in that players could make 1,000 mistakes, but the referee, when he or she makes one, it's talked about for forever and ever? When did that sink in that you had to be right all the time while the players had the opportunity to be wrong on several occasions?
It's an incredibly unfair world that the referees live in, because a striker could miss 15, 20 goals, open nets. But if they have the winning goal, that's all that people are going to talk about. A referee can make 1,000 decisions in a game, and they're going to talk about the one wrong decision that happened. So it's a difficult world that we live in, but we sign up for this, right? We understand that that's where we're living, and if you go in with that mentality, then it helps through that process. We work hard to get every call right. We're humans, though. We're gonna make mistakes, but as long as we're fighting to get into position, as Essie was talking about in his World Cup, you fight to get into position, you fight to get the right angle, then the chances that you make a mistake go down by so much. It's the ones that don't fight, it's the ones that take a risk and don't try to get themselves in the right position that are going to be making the mistakes. When we look at referees, when I think back to the amateur game, the one thing that they were so appreciative of, the players, is when they got a referee that was going to give everything that they had for them. Because we're there to service the game, we're there to service the players. So as long as we're doing our best, just like they're doing their best on the field to score a goal or to defend, as long as we're showing that we're doing our best to get the call right, they'll understand that mistakes are going to be made. And as long as we're honest, as he also talked about communication with players, using that body language. But there are times where we have to admit that we made a mistake. So as long as we're honest with the players, we don't disrespect the players, they're going to start trusting in you. And that's another word that Mark just talked about. All right, having that trust. So if the players have that trust in the referee, you know what? You can make that mistake. They're going to accept that mistake. Maybe not instantly, but over time, then when they start reflecting, they'll understand that we're just human. We're there for them. And as long as we go into the game with that attitude that we're there for the game, we're not there for ourselves, then in the end, that everyone will accept the rare mistake that a referee will make each game.
Well, I know I'm gonna go between two sports. When the review system came out for the sport of cricket, a lot of people said that the one thing that would happen is that the umpires will become a bit lazy and not willing to make a call that they could always review with what they consider the VAR. In football, how do you think this region will take on the VAR when it's actually in place in certain tournaments? And I'll put that to you, Mr. Meikle. You gotta unmute.
I'm saying I prefer to yield that question to either Mark Geiger or Mark Cahan.
Okay. Which one wants to take it?
I don't mind taking it.
Okay. Right.
Because I've been in situations in my career where VAR certainly could have saved me from disaster, and I've had a odd disaster now and then. I think with the world that we're living in, with the generations coming forward, where these kids now and these 20-year-olds have grown up with technology. There's now this expectation of technology. There's so much money and there's so much invested in these sports. It's kind of hard now to get away from VAR. We've seen so much progress in the game going forward, and the technology that they're using in order to train players to find out what is the best way to deal with players and training and data collection. Again, it's very difficult to not have VAR, but it's important to note that for the referees, there has to be some pride within themselves to get the call right on the field. When I was refereeing with VAR and I blew the final whistle and I didn't need VAR, that was the most satisfying thing, because I worked my butt off to get into the right position to make the right decision. I was giving red cards or giving yellow cards or giving penalties or not giving penalties without the technology, without the person in my ear saying, hey, you got it wrong. So as long as the referees take the mindset of a pride piece, all right, to get the call right themselves without it, then we're going to be in a good place. And then when that odd chance happens, that a mistake, a clear and obvious mistake happens on the field, VAR is going to be there in the background, be that safety net to help the game and get that clear and obvious error fixed.
We're going to find the VAR for the strikers missing these opportunities in front of goal. Mark, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's important also that the players with the use of VAR in our region, it's helping to kind of bring the pressure down, because now after something happens, the referee gets the information and now the players think, oh, at least they had another look at it. And now the behavior of the players has calmed down because they know somebody had another look at it. And that helps with game control for the rest of the game. For the most part, I think that'll be the expectation and the helpful thing in the region.
I do want to welcome the head of refereeing for Bermuda, Mr. Cranston Williams. How are you, sir?
I've been watching. I wasn't going to join, but I said I must come on. This is one of those moments where it's very humbling to see a panel of this magnitude on referee's corner. Earl, you were there from when this started, and I would have never, ever in my wildest dreams imagined that I have such an illustrious panel. So I said I must come on and just say thank you to everybody. Yeah, just thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, I'm gonna ask the final question to Essie, because I see something on his wall behind him, and when you see stuff on people's wall and it's got autographs and all that on it, Essie, what's that picture behind you over your right shoulder? Is that a match that you press officiate or press official match?
Yeah, that's a picture from the Olympics in 1996 in Atlanta. That's the semifinal game between Argentina and Portugal. This was when they were talking about that American referees really, at that stage, at that high level of a game, would be a risky appointment. I had done the Brazil-Nigeria game beforehand, and this was the semifinal game. Everybody was worried because Argentina, Portugal, two really emotional teams, not easy to control, things of that nature. I had done my homework beforehand. I knew that Ariel Ortega from Argentina was sitting on a yellow card. I knew that and had he received a yellow card in this match, he would miss the final, the gold medal match. And the players for Portugal is number 2, number 4, number 6, number 8, number 10, and number 13, number 4, the captain, Peixe. They all had yellow cards. So I wanted to make sure that, I communicate with these players in a way that they know that I know. And if they want to play in a correct way, that's fine. But if they wanted to be, crazy, then, I had the card as well. And so the semifinal match went very, very well without any incident, without any problems. Argentina won the game and went to play for the gold medal match. And when I came back, everybody, all referees in Colorado were at the airport waiting for me to come back, and they had actually taken the picture from a reporter there. and then they had blown it up and signed it. So this thing is sitting here. And in that match, my assessor was Volker Roth from Germany, where he came and said, welcome to Europe. And I had no idea what he was talking about. Welcome to Europe. Is he talking about, you're good enough to be refereeing in Europe type of thing, or what? And little did I know that based on that match, they had already made up their minds 2 years ahead of time that this is a referee that should be in the World Cup in '98 in France. And, I was receiving some of the most important games in South America, in Asia, a derby like Japan, South Korea, which is more than a game because of all the historical significance, and the big games in South America, and that was being given to me as a qualification. But this game really pretty much put us on the map as far as American referees can do the toughest games anytime, anywhere.
Dr. Geiger, I'm going to let you have. Can you give the young people around the region, because it's not just in Bermuda that watch this, around the region, some encouraging words that if you can't play the game, you can still make a career out in the game itself. What would those words be?
Yeah, it's I was not a player. I was not a very good player. So certainly there is a future for anyone who wants it, who wants to put the work in. It's not an easy road. Not every player makes the national team. Not every referee is going to go to the World Cup. But you need to challenge yourself. You have your comfort zone. All right, you have that level of game that you're comfortable doing, and you feel you're in a good place. But if you want to go forward, you need to challenge yourself. You need to get outside of that comfort zone. All right, so once in a while, take a game at that higher age group. Get an amateur game that's going to test your skills. You're going to make mistakes. You're gonna mess up some of the decisions. All right, but you need to go back. You need to reflect, think about what went wrong, and then come up with a solution. Go back into your comfort zone, and then get back out again. All right, challenge yourself. You now would have learned something. You're going to do better each time. So to continue to challenge yourself that way, and that's the way that you're going to move up. The same way a player moves up, same way a coach moves up, it's the same thing for the referee. Don't get discouraged with the mistakes. They're going to happen. It's okay. Just continue to work on it. Think about, reflect. Why did it happen? Fix it, and then go back out and do it right the next time.
And if I can just come in what Mark just said about comfort zone, I just heard this the other day, and they say comfort zone is the place where our dreams die. Okay, and comfort zone is not a good place to be. If you're dreaming high, go for it. Give it all. Don't be in a comfort zone. Always strive a little bit more. A little bit more. Good enough is not good enough. Try to go for perfection. And perfection may not be available, but the striving for it is going to make you a better person.
But Earl, let me jump on in the fitness wise to the comfort zone as well.
Sure.
So Mark spoke about comfort zone and SE as well, but in fitness, your comfort zone means that you're just stagnant now. That's why we have to overload to ensure that you keep encouraging and pressuring yourself to get to the top as well. Principle of overload. So once you have gotten, yes, I can do 10 push-ups comfortably, no issues. You can't stay there. No, you have to overload because the match is now asking more of you. We're asking for 100 minutes plus. So we now have to apply the principle of overload to ensure that you keep improving yourself as well.
Oh. Anyone else? Well, I want to say I am honored to have each and every one of you share this past hour and 5 minutes with me and the rest of the folks watching. I've learned so much. And funny enough, Essie, I saw that video that you were talking about earlier about 2 years ago. It came up while I was No, I saw it in 2016 because I was actually in Brazil for the for the Olympics, and it came up, and I watched it over and over and over. But I want to thank each and every one of you again, and on behalf of myself and Mr. Williams and the Bermuda Football Association, I want to say thank you very much. and have a good night.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Earl.
Thanks for all you're doing for the
Thank you so
game.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And keep working.
That's everybody.
Bye.